I've been playing Minecraft since the times before survival mode existed, and yet, despite all that time playing the game, I personally feel like I have a whole lot of room for improvement when it comes to building. I'm not the worst builder, but I'm not satisfied with where I'm at either. And one of my biggest struggles is using a wider variety of blocks in order to build more interesting and creative builds. So in an attempt to improve my building skills, I have created the Random Block Build Challenge. Basically, I use a random block generator to give me a random Minecraft block that I have to incorporate into my build in some way. And no, I can't just hide one of the block where it can't be seen and build whatever I feel like around it. It has to be a real part of the build. There will be 3 builds in this video. The first build has to include only one randomized block. The second build will have to incorporate 2 different randomized blocks at the same time. And the third round, you guessed it, we'll have 3 different randomized blocks all in the same build. Now that you know how this challenge works, let's get into the first round of the Random Block Build Challenge. Alright, let's see what we get for our first block. Cut sandstone. Oh, that's one I certainly don't use often. Alright, let's try it. So cut sandstone reminds me of kitchen counters. That's all I can ever think of when I look at cut sandstone and try to think of its uses. So for this first build, I'm deciding to build a sort of outdoor kitchen, inspired mildly by the outdoor kitchen you see in Kronk's New Groove. You know, obviously I'm adding a whole lot of my own special details and interpretations of what an outdoor kitchen could look like. Mine's a bit more modern, of course, than the one in Kronk's New Groove. But anyways, as you can see here, I do kind of struggle with figuring out what to do in the back there with all the shelves and such. I have a few utensils put up, or what are supposed to be utensils. There are lots of herbs and spices and stuff hanging down, or at least that's what the glow berries are supposed to be. And once I have that back wall figured out, I then move on to texturing the whole building, making it look all nice. And then of course I move on to the roof, which I also struggled with. Roof shape is something I often struggle with when it comes to variety in roof shape. But at least this time I added a skylight, which is new for me, to be fair. And once I have the roof in, I then move on to the ceiling on the inside. Usually I tend to neglect it, but this time I decided I won't do that. I added some lights, some plants, and then I moved on to the outside. Every good kitchen has a little bar area where you've got a couple of chairs for people to sit as they eat and talk to the people working in the kitchen, so that's what I added out there. And the next thing I decided to do was add a chimney. I know those are usually for fireplaces, but yeah, we've got smoke coming off the stove, why not? But let me tell you, chimneys are the worst thing in the world for me. I could just never get it right. But I eventually figured it out and got it looking pretty okay. So then I moved on to the outside area where I decided to give this outdoor kitchen some environment to be in. It's nothing too special, but then again, it's not supposed to be. The focus is supposed to be the kitchen itself after all. And with those finishing touches, the build is complete. Hey, not bad for a first random build, despite the fact that I was very much confounded on what to do for it at first. I mean, with a shape like that on the sides, cut sandstone is a little bit difficult to work with a lot of ideas, but for a kitchen counter, it works perfect. Overall, not too shabby if I do say so myself. Maybe I could have gone a bit more creative with the roof, and maybe I could have paid a bit more attention to the back, but that's fine. That's fine. We don't need to worry about it. What we need to worry about now is moving on to the next build. Alright, now remember, this next build has to have 2 randomized blocks in it instead of just 1. So let's get our first one. Packed ice. Okay, I feel like it could be worse. And acacia door? Oh no! The color scheme's already all messed up. Okay, let's see what we can do. So the two blocks we've been given are blue and orange, which are complementary colors, meaning they're on opposite sides of the color wheel. Now, in certain contexts, that can work pretty well, but in the context of Minecraft builds, we're gonna have to be really creative with it. Especially because acacia doors, in my opinion, are one of the ugliest blocks in the game. Best way I can think of to use it is to simply not use it as a door, and instead make use of it in windows. Specifically, in this case, windows on an evil wizard tower. That's right, for this second build, we're building a wizard tower. As you can see, this wizard tower is just kind of like surrounded in snow. I just kind of felt like the best sort of direction to go in this situation, where we need to work with both packed ice and acacia doors together, is to make something that contrasts heavily. And in this case, that contrast is a dark tower against the bright snow. You really have to be careful with blue and orange when you're not working with characters like Sonic and Tails. When it comes to environments, they kind of work best as accents to whatever else they're a part of, in my opinion. So that's exactly how I went about this. I just used them as sort of accent colors. If packed ice was just a little bit greener on the color wheel, I could see using it in a building with the acacia doors. But with that shade of blue, I can't exactly see it being used in a building well along with the acacia doors. Correct me if I'm wrong. Oxidized copper or cyan wool would have been much better. But it's packed ice we're working with, so I'm keeping the two blocks as two different parts of different structures. Instead of using the packed ice for the tower, we're instead going to be using it for an ice attack from an enemy wizard who decided he didn't like the evilness of the evil wizard that lives in the evil wizard tower. You get him, ice wizard. And so after a few final touch-ups, like a few more ice spikes, finishing up the door and the windows, we're going to then move on to finishing the roof, because believe it or not, it's not finished. It still needs to get a little bit wider before we can call it finished. But once it does get wider, this build will be complete. Okay, so I definitely went a little overboard with this one, I think. Especially compared to that. But then again, when you think of it, considering the scale of like a cozy little outdoor kitchen compared to an actual freaking wizard tower, maybe this makes sense. I do feel like I could have been more creative with this one, but I don't know, man, it's all I could think of. Just a wizard tower getting blasted by an ice attack. It's really hard to work with acacia doors in packed ice. But let me know in the comments if you have any better ideas for what this could have been. And with that second build done, it's time for us to randomize our last build. And this time, we're going to be randomizing 3 different blocks. The page kind of refreshed in between this clip and the last clip in which I rolled. So you could argue it's already given us our first randomized block here, being the pink stained glass, but then I can't involve it in the pizzazz. So I'm going to randomize it anyways, not including it in the set. And our first randomized block is Podzol. Okay, well, you know, we can use it. It's not the most difficult block in the world to use. And our second block is granite stairs. Okay, I'm already forming a sort of build palette in my head. This is good. This is good. And our last random block is pale oak stairs. Are you kidding me? 2 stairs? Well, it could be worse. Although the pale oak does put a little bit of a wrench in things. Alright, let's see what I can do with this. I can't help it. When I think of stairs, I think of roofs for houses. But, you know, only one of these stairs can be used for the roof, so I'm using the pale oak stairs for the walls. It does help with adding depth to the walls instead of having it just be one flat surface. As you can see, I workshopped a bit with carpet patterns there, but at the end of the day, I just decided no interior. Interior is definitely something I need to work on, but I decided it would be a bit difficult to include in a time lapse. Whereas with the outdoor kitchen, you can easily see everything inside from the outside, which made it much easier to time lapse. At least I got kitchen practice when it comes to interiors. But anyways, you can see that while I'm using the pale oak stairs for the walls, I'm using the granite stairs for the roof. I want this house to have sort of a cozy feel despite the sanitized white walls or whatever. So I decided to add a bunch of foliage and pots in the front porch. Maybe they're into gardening, I don't know. For some reason, I'm still paying attention to the carpet at this point. And then it immediately gets covered up by a brick wall like a Amontillado. I figured it would help with the cozy vibes. Probably not when I put it like that though. So at this point you might be wondering, why do I want a white walled house to be cozy? Well, I'm just telling you now, you can blame the podzol. Podzol is a very special ground block because it's associated with very specific types of environments, that being underneath coniferous trees, especially in Minecraft, which means that this house is going to have to be surrounded by a forest. You don't find podzol in the lawns of your everyday rural houses. I can speak. And what sort of feeling do people associate with houses that are in the woods? Coziness, obviously. I mean, unless you're a fan of horror movies, I guess. Houses in the middle of the woods and that genre tend to be more creepy than cozy, but that's not what we're going for, so we're doing the cozy kind. And now it is at this point that we finally start the podzol. We get a little bit of a path in front of the house in order to figure out our way out of the woods. And man, I really didn't have to go that hard with the podzol. But forget the podzol, we're moving on to the trees. Now here's the thing is, I've actually very rarely done custom trees in my life. Normally I just kind of like the regular Minecraft trees and having whatever I build, whatever flora I have blend into the natural Minecraft environment. But we don't have a natural Minecraft environment here. It's super flat. So I felt like getting a little fancy with it and making some custom trees. Which I didn't just build in the foreground, I included the background as well so that when you look at the house from the front it kind of looks like the forest goes on even beyond the house itself. Although with my self-imposed plot size limitations, there's not really much I can do with that. There's only so far the forest can go. But I did my best with what I had to work with. And I think it looks pretty nice in the end. And with the trees down, the final step is to add some extra foliage around the forest, and then we can take a good look at the finished build. And that is the final build of this video completed. Looking at the trees, I realized I may have gone a little overboard again. I recognize that. I mean, these things don't even have any of the blocks that I was supposed to be using. And somehow I find myself way more proud of the trees than the house that does use the blocks. But hey, you know what? Altogether, looks pretty darn good. So during the time lapse, I said that I don't do custom trees very often. When I said that, I meant I've basically only done 2 custom trees in my entire life. And neither of those trees had this kind of variety of leaves, and they were also not in this shape. So these trees are completely new for me, and I think I did a really good job on them. Oh, and the house. I did a good job on the house too, I guess. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with what I built today. I say today, but I actually built all of these builds on different days from each other. Typically, the stuff I build, although it looks decent, tends to be painfully plain or basic. Not very much variety and block palette between builds, so I desperately needed a change of pace. And after finally going through this challenge in a video, I must say, I think I've improved somewhat. And this challenge is a whole lot of fun. So I encourage any Minecrafters out there who want to improve their building skills to try this challenge for yourselves and see what you can create using what you're given. If you enjoyed what you just watched, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. I also want to hear from those of you who decide to try out this challenge for yourselves. I want you to tell me in the comments what your random block or blocks was or were and what you built with what you were given. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.